Nation states are in the process of reverting to the competitive security paradigm that we thought ended with the end of the Cold War. The multilateral system, which is owned and controlled by nation states, dominated by the P5, is simply not sufficiently empowered or equipped to address the security challenges that we face today. Technological developments are lowering the barriers for conflict and spreading the risks of violence. The release of or revival of the nuclear genie highlights the gross failure of the nuclear powers to bury the nuclear threat at the end of the Cold War. And now it's coming back with a vengeance. Military expenditures again on the rise. There's critical need for a new paradigm in thinking, institutional mechanisms, policy, and action if we're really to address our global security challenges. None of the major crises that we face or are facing now can be effectively addressed through the existing security paradigm.
We can now see how more and more political leaders are turning away from international cooperation, building walls and thinking that they want to put their own nation's interest first. But this whole perspective is very, very short-sighted because, the challenges we face, they are cross-boundary, and only together can we find solutions.
We don't have a framework conceptually to properly address these issues of protecting the oceans, the climate, pandemics, the rainforests, literally our third lung. These issues cannot be dealt with at a purely national level because they impact the entire human family. But our definition of security is almost entirely at a national military level. Since the beginning of the 20th century, we spent over $32 trillion pursuing security through military means. If we'd spent a pittance of that in addressing the quality of daily life of the people of the planet Earth, we'd be so much more secure. But more importantly, we can't effectively protect the oceans, the climate, the rainforest, the topsoil, the water, etc., if we don't have a framework that accurately describes our condition.
And we realize that the struggle for peace, thinking about peace, is our constant endeavor, our constant project. And we realize that in this day and age, we have to reimagine peace. We have to look once again at how we build peace, build dialogue, build understanding, and build a new set of institutions, maybe that can bring nations together instead of dividing them.
Human security is the proper framework for understanding our human condition in an integrated, holistic world. The relationship between states in a human security framework is to identify common security. But first and foremost, we are citizens of one planetary whole, one human family. And this, in a sense, is an opportunity for us to evolve to deal with the conditions, the human condition based on realism. And that realism requires us to honor the insights of science in our relationship to the natural world and are the insights of ethics based on human rights in our relationships to one another.
We really have to rethink security. We have to reimagine security. And there has to be what I refer to as a paradigm shift. And we as parliamentarians must be in the forefront of that shift, wherein we talk in terms of inclusive approaches that focuses on prevention of crisis, prevention of conflict, and then at the same time we try and build a resilient socioeconomic political environment around the individual. So I think that is what is important. And for us as parliamentarians, when we do our work, we have to be guided by certain, I wouldn't say principles, but priorities. What drives us to do the things that we try and do. And I think our job as parliamentarians, first and foremost, is the safety, security, and well-being of the people that we represent. It's part of our representative function, and this is absolutely critical. So when you look at human security, you're also talking about personal security, you're talking about community security, you're talking about political security, you're talking about freedom, you're talking about being secure in terms of health provisions, being secure in terms of access to education. And the moment you put the individual at the center of all that you do and think, you completely change your approach, because then what you're looking at, you are not just protecting individuals, but you're also empowering them, which I think is, at the end of the day, what we're all trying to do. We're trying to, through our work as representatives of the public, trying to live behind a better world than what we inherited. So we try and leave something better for the next generation.
No state can protect its citizens in relation to these global threats without common security, which is the expression of human security among states. Human security is founded on several principles. One, how do people actually live? What is security in their daily life? Freedom from want, freedom from fear, freedom from indignity. But it's also founded on the universal values that make us human.
The idea is to galvanize support from the global public for global peace and security. And that requires a message that every human being can understand and commit to. Human security is that message.
In essence, the thinking behind common security was that you shouldn't build your security at the expense of someone else, that you shouldn't build your security by weakening your counterpart, by weakening your neighbor. What it talked about was that you couldn't establish security by making yourself stronger and everybody else weaker. And this was the prevailing logic which informed the Olof Palme report. And in his report, therefore, he looked at the militarization. He looked at a million-strong Warsaw Pact facing 1 million-strong NATO. He looked at something like 90,000 nuclear weapons that were present and ready to use. He looked at these tensions, looked at these conflicts, and said the only way we're going to solve this is if we have a sense of the common security, that both sides should meet, discuss, and negotiate where they can talk about the risks to their own security.
We also wanted to develop some new principles. So we developed 6 principles for sort of common security 2022. One of them, well, the first of them then being that all people have the right to human security. We've been talking about this, freedom from fear and freedom from want. And also building trust between nations and peoples is fundamental to peaceful and sustainable human existence. But there cannot be any common security without nuclear disarmament, strong limitations on conventional weapons, and reduced military expenditure. Global and regional cooperation, multilateralism, and rule of law are crucial to tackling many of the world's challenges. Dialogue, conflict prevention, and confidence building measures must replace aggression and military force as a means of resolving disputes. And better regulation, international law, and responsible governance also needs to be extended to cover military technologies, such as the realms of cyberspace, outer space, and artificial intelligence. But then with these add-ons, once again, finding also a way back to the fact that confidence building measures are important to be able to work for peace, that rule of law is crucial and must be respected. And of course that disarmament and investments in development rather than in military arms is crucial for also preventing conflicts.
To be successful as a public representative, I think, whether it's a democracy at the national level or parliamentarian at the local level, representing his constituents, you have to deliver. For democracy to be strong, it has to deliver. Similarly, a parliamentarian must perform. And for you to be able to perform, you have to engage with your constituents. You have to, understand their needs. You have to solve the problems. You have to ensure the safety, security, and their welfare and well-being. And you can only do that when you're looking at the lens of human security, because it's multidimensional. It's across the board. So I think if you lose, or if you're not able to grasp the concept or not able to apply it, then you're really missing a huge point here, because it's the most practical way that you can organize your work. It's the most practical way of solving people's problems and meeting their expectations, which is what we all want to do.
I firmly believe that this new understanding of security can and should be built around the ideas of human security and common security. These tools can be adopted and integrated both by parliamentarians and peace activists because they relate to the very core of their working methods. On the one hand, this involves acting locally with a mindset centered on human development and the protection of people who, first and foremost, wish to live in peace in a secure environment that allows their families to thrive. There, public engagement is key to broaden the understanding of threats and their possible causes and work towards solutions that appropriately respond to each particular situation. On the other hand, it also means thinking globally, pushing for dialogue and conflict prevention to replace aggression and military force as a means of resolving disputes. We know that this can only happen through reinforced multilateralism, and that it implies joint efforts such as comprehensive disarmament and reduced military expenditure, but also stronger actions towards development, human rights, gender equality, and youth empowerment for better democracy.
Today's youth are particularly concerned by the decisions that are being taken at every level of political governance. Not only because these decisions impacting and shaping their future, but also impacting and shaping the environment that they are living in. And also because their perspectives are rarely sufficiently represented, included, or accounted for in political discussions. The inclusion of youth voices should also take place when discussing human security and common security in decision-making processes. Human security creates enabling environment for better human development. It extends the concept of security beyond physical security. It includes health, economy, political rights, and the environment. By endorsing and promoting the concept of human security at national levels, parliamentarians can pass more concepts and more human-centered legislations and sustainably prioritize the well-being of their citizens. This can help ensure that they live free from fear and violence. Common security is the expression of these priorities on a global scale. Young MPs are always about being forward-looking, and these forward-looking concepts are very important pieces to build more efficient and sustainable solutions for the world that we are living in. I look forward to seeing more young MPs around the world adapting these tools as a lens for their work and being involved in these processes. I believe it will help youth towards a fairer, more humane, and more collaborative future.